The blacks, when they took over after 1994, they plundered the infrastructure that was created. That's when BE comes in. The whites were happy, by the way, to select a few of the blacks, because that meant that the blacks would not actually rise and be a formidable group. If white people want to succeed, they must be humble. They are arrogant, they will run into trouble.
Dollar billionaire, South African born, living overseas.
I'm gonna come and grab your hand.
And I'm gonna call every one of them with you.
You will take me
Done.
and this group
Done.
to
Deal.
those billionaires. If you look at the leadership of the DA, you would have to be mad not to see that this is a party of white people. It is the Israelis who have instructed the Americans
To kick South Africa.
kick South Africa.
No.
That's the game here. South Africa will not succeed if white people and black people don't work together in politics, in business, everywhere.
Prince, welcome to Cape Town.
Thanks, Rob, for inviting me.
Well, we're going to play some golf tomorrow.
Yes,
What's your handicap?
19.
19. Okay, I'm off at 12. So, Prince, I know you as a friend, but what do you do and who are you? Can you answer those two questions for our viewers?
Let me start with who I am. Most people actually don't know who they are. You ask them, who are you? They are going to tell you things they have. And things they have can't be who you are. They can be what you are, and there's a difference between the two. So who am I? I am an Epicurean. I'm someone who pursues happiness. And there's a method in terms of how I get to happiness. I want voice and I want freedom. These are the two things that get me to happiness. I think I am the happiest human being on earth because I have voice and I have freedom. How do I get voice? I get voice through knowledge. So I spend a lot of time reading books for me to acquire knowledge. And when you are knowledgeable, you want to express an opinion about the universe, about the world. That's where I am. I'm opinionated because I read a lot. So I want to express an opinion, and that is voice, freedom. The idea that someone is going to tell me what to do when makes me extremely uncomfortable. So I want to be truly free to do what I want to do and what I like when I want to do what I want to do. So that's the essence of my being. So that's who I am. You see, I haven't told you what I have because my jacket doesn't define me. What do I do? My calling is to be a public intellectual. So because I read books, I have opinions, I express my opinions, hoping that my opinions will facilitate dialogue in public. So that's what I do. That's the core of what I do. You would have noticed that whatever I say, whenever I get a platform like this to say something, it drives some people mad. They go mad. Some people clap hands. I actually don't care. As long as I've expressed my opinion, if you don't like what I say, hard luck. If you like what I say, good luck. So that's who I am. That's what I do.
And 15 years ago, you began making predictions, giving commentaries on the political situation in South Africa. You talked about the needle and the needle moving and the direction it was moving in. And you are the most prescient person. And when I look back, and I didn't know you then, at the books and articles you've written, comments you've made, and how right you've been. And then you've really appeared on people's consciousness and on people's screens relatively recently as a revelation. Give us a little bit of history, a little bit of background on where that all came from.
When I went to university many years ago, I was in first year at the University of Venda in 1997. For some reason, I fell in love with intellectuals. So the guys who are serious thinkers in the world, even locally, those are the guys who inspired me. And at university, I eventually joined student politics, and I was in the SRC. So I was the debating type, the SRC type.
Same with me.
Oh, okay, same WhatsApp group.
But a long time before you.
Yeah. So that developed into a love of knowledge. So I spent a lot of time reading books that were not prescribed as part of my courses. And that planted a seed of wanting to understand society. How does society work? And over time, I drifted towards thinkers who are concerned about the bigger picture of societies. Where is society going? Strategists. Those are the type of thinkers that attracted me. To this day, I'm obsessed with the directions and drifts of societies. So when I read books, I want to know, where is China going? How did China, that was a backwater under Mao Zedong, a communist backwater, they were wearing pajamas, riding bicycles. How did it happen that after Mao died in 1976, there was a turnaround? What explains this turnaround? And where is China today and where is it going? That is how I look at countries, including the US, for example. I ask myself the same questions. How did it come about that a country that was not a country, right? Immigrants came from all over the world, in the main from Europe. They built this great democracy in North America. And over time, it became the number one economy in the world and the number one society in the world in terms of democracy, in terms of meeting people's aspirations. And it became a great power. But then fast forward to where we are, that great power is declining. By all indications, if you look very carefully, you can see that America is declining vis-a-vis China. China is on the ascendant. And that's why there is this tussle between the US and China. It is because China is an ascendant power. The US is actually a declining power. How does that happen? I apply the same prism to South Africa. Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going?
And where are we on the pendulum?
Exactly. So those are the types of books that I read, books that are helping me to understand the bigger picture in terms of where societies are going. So I spent a lot, because I'm a South African, I spent a lot of time reading South African history. I mean, if you want me to tell you about the history of Jews in South Africa, I've gone into their classics to understand, how did Jews get here? They were poor. A guy like Semi Marx came here with a box of spoons and eventually becomes a billionaire. Him and his friend built the first Hersov in Pretoria. How did they become so rich when they were poor? Same applies to the English. The 1820 settlers were poor. How did they turn around themselves and then they are poor? Same applies about the Afrikaners, the poor white problem. I mean, as recently as the
1920s.
Yeah, they were very poor. So I'm interested in how do societies turn themselves around. And even blacks, by the way, I look at them. Now, I have come to the conclusion that South Africa rose and it has reached its peak and it's now going down.
Really?
Yes, it is going down.
The South African Empire.
The South African Empire is in serious decline. The reason why South Africa has been governed by modern South Africa has been governed by three governments, and people actually can't make sense of these trends. It has been governed by the English. The English were the first to run this big thing when they began to have an interest, especially after the discovery of diamonds in Griqualand, now Kimberley. They took an interest in the whole thing. Before that period, it was the beggars. They were not even called the Afrikaners. They were mainly based in the Cape. They didn't venture into the north. I mean, they began to venture in the north after they were offended by the English, by the way, through the Great Trek. But the height of the South African Empire was facilitated through mining. And mining was actually built by two groups. It was built by the English and the Jews. They are the ones who actually modernized South Africa.
Was it Cecil Rhodes?
Yes.
Broadly.
Cecil Rhodes was actually the leader of that project, even though he was not the richest, by the way. The richest guy during that period, and most people don't know about this, was actually Cecil Rhodes' friend, Alfred Beit, who was actually a German guy, German Jewish.
Yeah. B-E-I-T.
Exactly. Yeah. The Beit Bridge in going to Zim was actually named after him by his friend Cecil John Rhodes. But Rhodes was the vision man who wanted these grand schemes.
Cape to
Cairo. So mining was the height of it. The Afrikaners, when they took over, they added something to the South African Empire. They added parastatals, state-owned companies.
Eskom and the like.
Transnet and the like. That is the component that was added by the Afrikaners. The blacks, when they took over after 1994, they plundered the infrastructure that was created by both the English and the Afrikaners. That's what they did.
Was that the beginning of the decline, or did it happen earlier?
That was the beginning of the...
When was the apex?
The apex was somewhere around the 60s.
The day I was born.
Yeah, the 60s.
Yeah,
that was the height of apartheid.
Mm.
But at that stage, the Afrikaners had done two things. They had actually consolidated state power, and they had used state power to build parastatals. So that was the highest level of development of the South African Empire. The English and the Jews at that, the mining industry was way developed by that time. So the final stage was the consolidation of state power, as well as the addition of parastatals as a component of the South African Empire. So, and that facilitated the lifting of the Afrikaner nation out of poverty. So by the time we hit 1994, Afrikaners were no longer poor. They were now middle class and rich. So when the blacks took over, the hope was they were going to use state power to develop themselves as a group. They did not. What did they do? They actually, and this is the sin that was committed by the black elites, in the main, the ruling class among the blacks, the ANC. Instead of asking themselves, what is it that what component can we add to the economy? They didn't ask themselves that question. They said, how can we get into the white man's tent? That's when BE comes in. So the elites wanted to run into the white man's tent to be accommodated. Instead of coming up with something new, a component that they would add and say, we are proud as a nation. This is what we have added. Just like the Afrikaners added parastatals to the South African Empire. So the blacks did not add anything because they wanted to be included. The whites were happy, by the way, to select a few of the blacks, because that meant that the blacks would not actually rise and be a formidable group.
Co-opting.
So a guy like Cyril Ramaphosa, your Mutsepe, they co-opted a few of them and kept them in the tent. That meant that black people couldn't rise economically. So if you look at the South African economy and say, over the past 30 years, what is it that black people have added? In the main, black people have been consumers. They have not been creators of wealth.
But can that needle turn? Can a new dynamic of born frees, younger black leaders, black entrepreneurs, black corporates, black businessmen say, this isn't working, let's move in another direction and make something extraordinary happen for South Africa?
It can, but you'd need a black renaissance. And that black renaissance would be very painful. And black people, I'm black. I think I know
Really?
my people. They are not prepared to take pain.
Interesting.
The first pain that black people must take is to acknowledge that as a collective, they are backward, they are underdeveloped. They need to have a real conversation that is
About
painful about that. I told you I study societies all over the world. The turning point, the first turning point in the non-white world, because the whites, especially in the 19th and the 20th century, the whites were ahead of the rest in the world, development-wise. The rest were backward. The first group to raise themselves to the level of whites in terms of development, and this group became very proud, were the Japanese. And the Japanese did that because there was an intellectual revolution within Japanese society, and it was led by a visionary elite, the Meiji Empire from 1868. They asked themselves the question, why is it that these white people are so powerful? They are so ahead of us. What is the difference between us and them? You know, the Meiji Empire, they actually sent a delegation to go to the West, to go to America, to go to Europe, and say, go and study those people. What makes them to be ahead of us? When that delegation came back, first thing said, we as Japanese must acknowledge that we are backward. That's the starting point. If you do not acknowledge that you are backward, you will never address your backwardness. That's number one. Number two, they said there is no difference between us as Japanese and white people. We are all human.
Right.
We have heads, we have brains.
So what's the difference?
The
Culture.
only difference
Is it a cultural
is
issue?
education. That's what the Japanese
Simple as
said.
that.
Simple. It's education. And the Japanese realized that it's not education in general. It's technical education, maths and science. So there was a deliberate investment by Japanese society that Japanese kids must study maths and science. And over time, Japan as a society, non-white, rose to the level of whites, to the extent that by the 70s and the 80s, Japan was the second largest economy in the world, having beaten the rest of Europe, by the way. It was America, number two was Japan.
And I remember I was living in New York at the time, and everything was the Japanese investors, and you're right.
China did the same.
Right.
Deng Xiaoping had to do a soul searching. And he said, we are backward. So the starting point, acknowledge that you are backward. Two, education, maths and science, in order to catch up with the West. Look at China today. China was backward in the 70s. Today, China is the second largest economy in the world. Let me tell you, you say I predict stuff.
Yes,
just look, in the next 15 years, if you and I live for the next 15 years, China will be number one in the world. Just take all the... Okay, go and read the book by Kishore Mabuban. Has China won? That's the title of the book.
We'll put it into the link in the show.
Has China won? By Kishore Mabuban. Kishore Mabuban.
From where?
From Singapore.
Okay.
This is the guy who worked under Lee Kuan Yew. This guy is one of the best strategists living today. This fellow was personal friends with Henry Kissinger. They used to have a beer together. I mean, that's how serious this guy is. The guy studies the world. As China won. If you read that book, you will realize all the indicators suggest that China has almost won. The Americans are sleeping. So, black people, if black people want to turn themselves around, firstly, and I say this boldly, they must acknowledge that they are backward. Secondly, they must wake up and adopt maths and science as their national priority. Black kids must study maths and science. 3, they must deal with SATU. The South African Democratic Teachers Union is a counter-revolutionary force destroying the education of the black child. You must do a Margaret Thatcher on SATU. We must clear them out of the way so that you don't gamble with the future of black children. Let me tell you, if you do what I'm telling you, over time, a period of 20 to 30 years, black people will be ahead of many other groups in the world. That's how others have done so. Go and study East Asia, you will see.
But you look at the American applications for business schools and law schools, primarily Asian. The Asians are outperforming in math, science, engineering. It's extraordinary how they've committed themselves to math and science. You're right.
Well. Don't go to America, and I'll come back to that. Look here in South Africa, who are the top performers? Do you know who are the top performers in math and science? It's Indians. It's Indians right here in South Africa.
Yeah.
And the Indians are a minority. They don't worry about some nonsensical, ideological stuff that people debate on a daily basis. You know what they do?
They study.
Yeah, they study. And what does that do? It lifts them above the rest. Black people are busy talking about Umkhonto weSizwe, a backward force. I mean, Umkhonto weSizwe, the EFF, these people are an embodiment of backwardness.
Yeah.
Everything that they're calling for, it's stuff that will drag black people to the Middle Ages. It's not something that will dig black people out of poverty. They are busy confusing people and saying, land this, land that. Let me tell you, in the US, by the way, white people in the US are the owners of the majority of land in the US. But white people in the US are not the richest. The richest people in the US are Asians.
Correct.
But they don't own land. Why and how? The Umkhonto weSizwe clowns and fools. They are busy singing songs and choruses about land. They don't understand.
That's
wealth.
not where the value is.
They don't understand. Yeah. They don't. By the way, Mugabe once said, he was interviewed by Dalit Tambo, I remember. He says, no, your people don't want land. Go to Soweto and tell them and say, want land. In fact, the people of Soweto used to call us who come from the rural areas, Abantu Basema Plazin, the people from the farms. Because here is the thing. What is civilization? Civilization is the movement of people from rural areas to cities.
Urbanization.
It's all about urbanization. So, in fact, if you look at the biggest province in South Africa, the biggest province in South Africa in terms of population is Gauteng. Gauteng is the smallest province in South Africa in terms of land.
And the highest urbanization.
Julius Malema, for example, he ran away from Limpopo, where there is land, and went to Gauteng.
Inanda Club.
Exactly, to Gauteng.
Yeah.
He doesn't want land. He wants better life, city life. So we really have to start a real conversation, especially among blacks, an honest conversation. See, a guy like me, by the way, if I say what I'm saying, I know I'm going to be insulted and I don't care. They can insult me as much as they want. I don't care.
I know the feeling.
But here's the thing, Rob. Society will move the day we look each other in the eye and tell each other the truth. And that's what I'm committed to.
Powerful. You know, Prince, you've made some predictions lately, and the one is that the ANC will be irrelevant in 2029. And when I first heard you saying that, it took my breath away. Because my brain has been so wired to try and remove the ANC to fix the country. And you're saying, you don't need to worry about it. It has its seeds of its own collapse. It's happening anyway.
Look,
it's a wake-up call for South Africa.
One of the things that my pastime is to study civilizations, the rise and fall of civilizations, all the way from the Romans, every civilization, I've studied them. I can tell when a civilization is falling, and I can tell when a civilization is rising. Me and my colleague, Mzuki Sitko, we wrote a book, The Fall of the ANC. We wrote it in 2012.
That's right.
It came out in 2014. We predicted that the ANC was going to lose an election in 2024. So count from 2012 to 2024.
12 years.
We had a long discussion with Mzu. about it because Mzu insisted, no, Prince, we can't write and say the ANC is going to lose an election in 2024 because we'll still be alive. What if we get it wrong? I said, Mzu, let's write it. I can feel it in my stomach that this thing will happen because I know how a civilization falls and how a civilization runs. The ANC fell a long time ago. Here is how a party falls. A party first falls in the minds of people. Before you can experience the tangible expression of the fall, the party first falls in the minds of people. So the ANC fell around 2007, 2008. That's when the ANC fell. The party began to behave in a way that shocked observers. And you began to hear people talking about the ANC in a disrespectful manner. They were now free to think the ANC and ANC leaders are scoundrels, they are thieves. You could hear that people were now talking about the ANC as if they're talking about people in the Shebeen. That's when the party fell.
As early as that?
As early as that.
Extraordinary.
So at that time, me and my friends, my intellectual friends, we had a group called the Midrand Group. We were having intense discussions about what was happening. And of course, the intense discussions were not public. So the public didn't have the benefit of our discussions.
The voice.
By the time we began to write about what we were seeing, this was around 2014, we're writing in newspapers, we actually shocked South Africans because what we wrote was new and groundbreaking and was shocking. And we came across as if we were arrogant, disrespectful, but we were expressing deep trends that we had studied. So at that time, we knew that this thing is over. Let me fast forward. In 2029, live and I live. I used to say the ANC will get less than 20%. If the ANC gets 15%, it will be very lucky. South Africans are heartful. They cannot wait to vote the ANC out. In fact, South Africans are saying, when I say, no, don't remove the ANC now. Let's allow the ANC. They say, no, we cannot wait until 2029 is far. South African, I'm telling you, the ANC is going to see dust. So in my planning, in my scenario imagination, I no longer see the ANC. It's out and it will not come back. And by the way, you may think I'm dreaming. Let me give you a concrete example. There was an ANC of Zambia under the leadership of Kenneth Kaunda. Kenneth Kaunda was the Mandela of Zambia. Go to Zambia today and tell me, you will struggle to find the T-shirt of Kaunda's party. Completely gone and disappeared. So what I'm talking about has happened right here on the African continent. So me, I'm ahead of the noise. That's why, I mean, my fellow analysts, by the way, they cannot see. I'm way ahead of them.
I'll tell you one thing, Prince. I'm not ever going to bet against you.
Yeah. No, you bet.
No.
I'm willing to put 50 cents on the table.
I'd rather bet with you.
The ANC after the 2029 elections will not even be part of that coalition government.
Extraordinary. But where will those voters go? That's the obvious question everyone's asking.
When change comes, I can sense it. I can feel it in my stomach. Something new will come before 2024. 2029. Something new will come before 2029, which is going to redefine South African politics.
Interesting.
I can feel it and sense it in my stomach. I cannot define it now, but I've lived through change. Remember, I was 18 in 1994.
You're a baby.
Yeah. I felt it in my stomach that something seismic was happening at the time. I've seen change.
So you think something new will come?
I have no doubt about it.
And what will it look
no
like?
Doubt.
What will it feel like?
Here is, now this might sound like prophecy.
Prediction and prophecy.
Yeah. You see, I combine experience in political analysis, knowledge of the world, and many other things. And all of this stuff helps me to understand social trends. Here is the formula for South Africa. And I hope whatever something new comes will be in that direction. Number one, nothing new will succeed politically in South Africa if it does not involve blacks and whites together. Mark my words. You may say, no, this is wishful thinking. No, this is actually part of the character of South Africa. Let me give you an example. Every party on the black side of things that says we are a party of black people, we want to drive white people to the ocean, historically has not succeeded. Show me. Will not show me one, but I'll show you two parties that have said the same thing and have failed. The PAC, 1955, breaks out of the ANC because they want to drive white people to the ocean. It failed. Why did the ANC succeed vis-a-vis the PAC? It's because the ANC said South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. That's why the ANC succeeded. People may actually not think about that. So you had white people. There were white people in the ANC. Jews, Afrikaners, Indians, coloreds in the ANC, blacks. They did it together. The ANC succeeded. The Black Consciousness movement of Steve Biko, in the form of Azapo, for example, were for blacks only. It did not succeed. Only the ANC succeeded because the ANC said South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Even the later day expressions of that black-only politics, like Umkhonto weSizwe, will not succeed. It will succeed a bit in KwaZulu-Natal for a period. By the way, I don't even count Umkhonto weSizwe as a party. When Jacob Zuma is dead, this thing will evaporate. By the way, it's falling apart now. It's being run by the children. Look at the chaos there.
Yeah, it's a revolving door.
Exactly. So it's not a party. It's not going to get anywhere. The EFF also has projected itself as a party of black people. It's stuck and is moving in reverse. It will not succeed. So what is this thing that I see that will succeed? The best of black people who are educated and the best of white educated coming to a point where they recognize that their country is in trouble, that politics is too serious a business to be left to scoundrels, and that parliament is an important instrument of national progress, that they have to go and contest that space. I think when I listen to South Africans have reached that point. This is what they're talking about. Yeah. So now, and wherever I go, people say, Prince, why can't you go into politics? Why can't people like you go into politics? And people like me are beginning to ask themselves searching questions because they have children. They can see that the nation has reached a crossroad. The future of their children is at stake. And my sense is that they will wake up. And it's not me, by the way. So count me out. Well, I'm talking about South Africans here. Because there's no single individual who's going to rescue the country.
Correct.
It's
a group.
It's a group.
But could you be part of that group? I think you should, Prince.
No, here's the thing. By the way, if I were to be, a group were to invite me and say, Prince, help us this and the other. I'm a patriot. I have 4 children. I want my children to live in a proper country. I do not want my children to walk with the shame of being South Africans. You know, today, if you meet Zimbabweans anywhere in the world, including here in South Africa, and say, where are you from? They are ashamed to say, I am from Zimbabwe. Because Zimbabwe is now a source of shame.
It's a joke. Yeah.
It's a joke. They've ravaged that country to the extent that its citizens have fled and are now embarrassed to walk tall and say, I'm from Zimbabwe.
We're not there yet.
We are not there yet, but we are very close. You see, black people, let me talk about black people. You see, me, I'm not scared to talk about whites, and I'm not scared to talk about blacks. Black people's pride has been seriously injured. There was a time when black people were so proud during the Mandela and the Mbeki years.
Very much so.
Very proud.
You could
see it. That we are in charge. Let me tell you, today, the pride of black people has been broken. Why? Because the ANC has messed up And whether you like it or not, in the eyes of the world, the ANC is viewed as a party of black people.
Correct.
Wrongly or rightly. Just like the government of National Party was viewed as a government of white people.
Of Afrikaner white
Yeah,
people.
you could be
Yeah.
an Afrikaner and say, no, not in my name, but that was the government of the Afrikaner. So before the Afrikaner, we had the government of the English that represented the English people. So the ANC did represent the government of black people. And that black experiment has been compromised by the ANC. So black people are no longer proud. So they need to do something to reclaim their pride. If they don't do something, let me tell you, they will be like Zimbabweans. They will be ashamed to say, I'm a black person, I am a South African. So this has to be arrested. I want to be proud to be South African. And by the way, when I talk about black people, I'm not talking about an exclusively black project. Black people must work with white people. My politics is clear. If you accuse me of politics, of being a politician, whatever you say, clear, I put it on the table. I believe South Africa will not succeed if white people and black people don't work together in politics, in business, everywhere.
I love to hear that. I mean, this is what it was all meant to be. And it's a pity we haven't got there yet. So you think there could be a revival if that comes together?
Yes.
So South Africa is a declining empire, but maybe South Africa 2.0, the phoenix, can arise.
Without a doubt. Here is the thing about South Africa. This country, there are a few things about it that I know. Number one, and this will sound like a cliche, it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
Ask my wife. She's a New Zealander. She agrees.
This comes from me. I have traveled and I'm privileged. There is no continent in the world that I've not been to. There's no big country in the world that India, China, US, name them. I have been to those countries. I know what I'm talking about. This is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. You know what that means? If you can have this grouping that I'm talking about, people with money in the world would like to come and live.
Invest
in this country.
Visit,
tour. Build homes here. They would bring their money here. Look at a former backwater called Singapore. What did Singapore have to attract foreigners to go there?
Didn't have mountains, didn't have beaches.
It didn't have
vineyards.
Kruger National Park. It didn't have the Table Mountain.
Yeah.
It didn't have what we have.
Yeah.
But because of proper and good governance and a visionary governance, Singapore became a magnet.
The same with Sweden.
Yeah, the same with Sweden.
Sweden was a backwater.
Yeah, the same with...
Look at it now.
No, the same with Mauritius next door. Yeah. Why? If you say white people of Europe are racist, no. Why do they go to Mauritius if they are racist? They go into Mauritius because it's proper
great.
country. It's great. So let me tell you, if you have proper leadership, this country can be turned around. 5 years is a long time. I can tell you, the formula is not complicated. 5 years is a long time. Here is one of the things I would do. And this might sound controversial. If we were to have a grouping like that, you know what I would do? I would say to the grouping like that, let's go to Elon Musk in the US. Elon Musk is a South African, was born here. He's the richest man on earth. We go have a serious discussion. We don't insult the guy. Say, hey, you are South African. We want you to be our champion. Come and live in South Africa. Come and invest. Mobilize your friends. They must come and build factories in South Africa. SpaceX. Do something here. Your Tesla. Elon Musk has a big factory in China.
Put it here.
Put it here. Employ South Africans.
By the way, Prince, I've put together a list. It's at 170 names of dollar billionaire, and people worth over 200 million US dollars, South African born, living overseas. It's at 150 names.
I'm going to come and grab your hand.
And I'm going to call every one of them with you.
You will take me and this group to those billionaires. I want them to come here and invest. We must make this country a happy place for them. We want their billions here. They will create jobs for black people. They will create jobs for white people. and this country will flourish. This country will be a Switzerland of Africa. There's no reason why we can't be a Switzerland or a Singapore of Africa. There is simply
We've
no
even got
reason.
skiing here.
We have everything. This is many countries in one. You want animals.
You want vineyards.
You want
ocean,
animals. Go to Kruger National Park, where I come from.
Wales.
You want the desert. The Karoo is here. You want the
Forests.
beach, the forest. Everything is here. We just need to sort out leadership and governance. And part of sorting out leadership and governance, by the way, we must descend heavily on criminals. You see, Mkwanas, this grouping must appoint Mkwanazi to be the national commissioner of the police and be given resources. And we say to Mkwanazi,
fix the problem.
You prioritize political criminals. Everyone was minister, deputy minister, DG, chief director in procurement under Zuma and under Cyril, including Zuma and Cyril. It's under investigation. They must be arrested. The criminals, there must be no space for them. If you don't address law and order, you will never fix South Africa.
Correct. Quick question I did want to ask you. America currently, with regards to the political situation in South Africa, force for good, moving the needle, or not? Pulling out of G20, is that positive, negative for fixing South Africa?
You see, Kishore Mabubane and Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was 99 before he died. He calls his friend Kishore Mabubane, who was in Singapore, say, hey, I need to see you. And they meet in Washington, D.C. They have a lunch together. They have discussions about this. And then Kishore turns to his friend and says, hey, Henry, tell me, what exactly did you invite me to? What did you want to tell me? Am I understanding you correctly? Is this what you are saying? And then he says, this is what I'm getting from you. You are saying the US has gone to war with China without a strategy. Is that what you are saying? And Henry said, yes, that's what I'm saying. So this conflict between US, which is led by Trump, and China, what is the strategy on the part of the US?
To make peace.
No. Here is the thing about strategy. The strategy is you don't make a move until you have decided what is the end game. That is strategy. So, say you have won. If you go to war, like Putin is fighting Ukraine, the first thing you do, you say, what will victory look like? Let's come to South Africa and the US. What would be victory? What would constitute victory on the part of the US about South Africa? Has that been defined by Trump and them?
Not that we know.
No. Look, here's the thing. They have never said anything that approaches a strategy. So there's no strategy. So this is a bunch of mindless leaders who are just kicking South Africa like football.
Shooting from the hip.
They're kicking South Africa like football. After kicking it, so what? So
is the strategy to move South Africa from an Iran, Russia, China pole to moderate or pro-West? Maybe that's the strategy.
The strategy, by the way, and this might sound controversial, but you know me, lynch me if you want. I'm not scared to tell the truth. The strategy, what the US is doing does not, to South Africa or about South Africa, does not come from the US. And this is going to be surprising. Come from Israel. Not come from the US. South Africa has offended Israel big time by taking Israel to the International Court of Justice. And by the way, before the Israelis lynch me, and they can lynch me if they want, South Africa did not take Israel out of its own volition. South Africa was contracted by Iran
to do it. And paid.
Yeah, and paid. And here is the problematic thing about South Africa, and I'm going to conclude the American stuff. South Africa was stupid to be drawn into that game. It injured its own national interests. If Iran wanted a country that could take Israel to the International Court of Justice, why is it that it didn't go to Palestine's neighbors?
Jordan.
Yeah.
So,
They are there.
Mm.
Why do you fly over and land on the southern tip of Africa and pick this bunch of fools who don't understand the bigger game and say, we'll pump money into you, you go to Europe and take on Israel? Ramaphosa and the bunch of idiots around him, they walked into a trap. This doesn't mean that the cause to support Palestine is not a good cause. Anybody who murders human beings indiscriminately
is bad.
is bad.
Right.
Netanyahu is bad. Hamas is bad.
Russia, bad.
Russia, bad. Anybody who does that, it's bad. That's me. That's my moral compass. Not like I'm taking sides here. But then the Israelis control America. The Jewish lobby is powerful. And we can go into the history of how the Jewish lobby was constructed. That's why Trump was frustrated with Netanyahu. We've seen it on a number of occasions. But there's nothing he could do, inverted commas, as powerful as America is. So it is the Israelis who have instructed the Americans
to kick South Africa.
Right. That's the game here. So poor Trump, he's wearing soccer boots.
Why does he care about South Africa?
He has been given a football called South Africa by the Israelis. They're saying to him, kick them, kick this football. He's kicking, he doesn't know where, he can't even see the goalpost.
Sure.
It's no strategy. That's what's going on here.
Interesting. I need to ask you a question about local politics, if I may.
Sure.
Fascinated about your 2029 and beyond, and I have hope. I really have hope in my heart. The DA, you say, also will be somewhat irrelevant by 2029. It doesn't feel like it has the seeds of its own destruction. Maybe it has a glass ceiling of sorts, but where do you see the DA going? Is it a force of good? Can it make a difference? Would it be part of a future coalition?
Let's start here. If you look at governance in South Africa today, the DA is the best government.
The best we have.
The best we have. Without a doubt. You are black, you're Umkhonto weSizwe, you are EFF, and you can scream as loud as you want. But if you look at governance, look at where the DA governs. That is the city of Cape Town. Versus where the ANC governs. That is the city of Johannesburg. You need to be an idiot of the West order to think that the DA is the West vis-a-vis the ANC.
Correct.
Without a doubt about
Yeah.
it. If you say it's 11 o'clock at night, you put on your shorts, it's hot, you want to walk, take a walk, and you are rational. And I ask you, would you be confident to walk downtown Cape Town? Would you be confident to walk downtown Johannesburg? Let me tell you, even the hothead of Umkhonto weSizwe, by the way, will say, no, I'll walk downtown Cape Town.
Correct.
Yeah.
I have walked
because
downtown
you will
Cape
be
Town.
safe downtown Cape
Yeah.
Town.
Yeah.
You can't be safe in Johannesburg where Dada Murero is mayor. You will be murdered. You will be
I don't
mad.
even stop at red lights in Joburg.
In Joburg, people
The
do.
red light's a yellow light to me.
So when it comes to governance, by the way, let's take it to another area. Water.
Okay, water.
Do you know that the black people who live in Sandton, which is the richest square mile in Africa, go without water for a week? The black people who live in Kwalanga have never gone without water for a week. No, if people say I'm lying, just tell me, when did it happen in Kwalanga? Ask the people of Kwalanga. They may have other problems, but when it comes to water, something as basic as water, the people of Kwalanga get water all the time. The people of Sandton, black people, forget about whites, they don't get water all the time. So the DA is a better government without a doubt. Here is the problem with the DA. The problem with the DA is that if you look at the leadership of the DA, you would have to be mad not to see that this is a party of white people. Yeah,
It does feel like
yeah.
it, even
They
though
will tell you, no, we are the most diverse. I mean, it's all nonsense. Go to the headquarters of the DA here in Cape Town, right? Just walk in there.
It's pretty white.
And just walk. Knock on every door there. And you see who opens the door, who is the strategist, who's the head of finance, who's the head of communication, who is the leader. Let me tell you, this is a party of whites. There's nothing wrong in being white, just like there's nothing wrong in being black. I mean, by the way, it's beautiful to be white, it's beautiful to be black. Because can you imagine if we're all white or if we're all black?
Pasty pink.
The world would be boring. The Lord has designed the world to be diverse. Even when you look at the bush, the trees are not the same.
Correct.
Diversity is beautiful. But the DA has not embraced the philosophy of the Lord, which is diversity.
And you think that's going to be its failing or its ceiling?
That is holding back the DA. They have created a ceiling for themselves. I don't see them breaking that ceiling until and unless they are prepared to embrace South Africa's diversity. And it's going to be tough because, you see, this kind of diversity that I have in mind, it's not a diversity of puppets. So this idea that we're going to select a few young blacks.
It's merit diversity.
It's merit diversity. Yeah. It's intellectual rigor diversity. It's rationality diversity. It's intellectual backbone diversity. So the DA, the whites in the DA must be prepared to negotiate with truly independent blacks who have merit, who are educated, who can argue their point and differ with whatever point that comes from whether a black or white person until they reach a rational conclusion and they say the logic dictates that we do this. But you see, the DA wire pullers want to run black people as if they are puppets. They want to put, that's why they collect these weak blacks that they can manipulate. If they continue along those lines, there will never be the government of South Africa. Let me tell you what's going to happen if they don't change. A new group will emerge that will involve educated, meritocratic blacks, educated, meritocratic whites. And let me tell you, the DA will die, will disappear.
And do you think that entity is nascent, exists, or hasn't come together yet?
No, I listen to conversations. I can tell you, there are people who are thinking along those lines.
Okay.
I think we will see that before 2029. Mark my words. I listen. You see, I go to funerals, I go to weddings, I listen to radio stations, I read newspapers, social media. I listen. And my ear is sharp. I tend to pick up things that
others aren't hearing.
Yeah, others are not hearing. I'm hearing conversations now that South Africa is in trouble. Let's do something. And I think something will happen.
Prince, tell me, what books have you got beside your bed right now? I'm sure it's not just one. What are the ones you're reading?
Well, now I'm reading here. I brought Konrad Adenauer.
Konrad Adenauer.
Yeah,
the German.
Yeah, the first German chancellor of West Germany. And this guy is mad. Why is he reading this? Remember, I told you I'm obsessed with strategy.
Yes.
Konrad Adenauer had a strategy, what Kissinger called. By the way, Kissinger is one of my intellectual role models. And I can tell you, other role model is Unga, Roberto Mangabera Unga. But listen, Konrad Adenauer adopted a strategy of humility. Humility. That you can be humble and still achieve big things. Remember, Germany is defeated. It's cut into 4 pieces. There's a French zone, there's an American zone, there's a British zone,
Russian.
And a Russian zone, right? The Germans are beaten. Adenauer feels it in his stomach that we need to recreate this great nation called Germany. But in order for us to do so, we have to be humble and submit to these fellows because they have defeated us. We must nurse them to the extent that they realize that we mean well and allow us to recreate a German government, not a Nazi government. And over time, Germany will be great again. You see,
So I'm hearing a parallel to
Trump
what you want from South Africa is people to acknowledge
now.
and accept.
Yes, there's a parallel. Here is the thing about South Africa. Now you're bringing this into this book. If white people want to succeed in South Africa, and succeeding means they must have a good life. It's
Safe,
not complicated.
happy,
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. They must be humble. If they're arrogant, they will run into trouble. If black people want to succeed in South Africa, meaning they must have a good life, they too must be humble. If they're going to be arrogant, they will run into trouble. That's what I'm picking up from Konrad Adenauer, the strategy of humility.
Beautiful.
So that's the book I am reading now.
Wow.
I have read...
what have you got teed up next? I'm dying to... This is fascinating book.
I will teed up next. The title of the book is The Weirdest People in the World. I'm sure you've heard about that book.
No.
The Weirdest People in the World.
I think I'd like to read that.
Weirdest. Westernized, industrialized, educated, the weirdest, and democratic. These people, if you look at the West, the reason why the West was at the top of the world is because it westernized, industrialized,
freedoms,
educated, and democratic. That's the formula of Western progress. Now, let me tell you my dream. My dream is one day South Africa must be a first world country. The blacks of South Africa and the whites of South Africa must enjoy the living standards that are enjoyed by the first world in the whole world. That's my dream. How do you get there? You must be educated.
Maths and science.
You must industrialize, build factories, produce stuff. You must democratize. There must be no dictatorship. A guy like me must express his opinion freely without being killed.
And you must be humble.
And you must be humble. That's the formula the Japanese adopted. But see, they had a slogan, the Japanese. They said, Western technique, Japanese spirit. That was the Japanese. The Chinese under Deng. Deng said, it does not matter the color of the cat as long as it catches mice.
I love that.
So those are types of books that I'm reading. But if you want a whole list, so one of my best books in terms of philosophy is Bertrand Russell, and it's actually my status on WhatsApp. The Quest of Happiness. Remember I said I'm
reading A.C. Grayling, the same.
The Quest of Happiness. Let me tell you, people say Prince is angry. They don't know. I am the happiest human being in the world. I'm so happy. I play with my kids. I'm relaxed. I'm not tense, but I love my country.
Prince, you're a national treasure. I'm so thrilled to be your friend. So thrilled you're here with me in my house in Cape Town, that we're playing golf together. I love you very much. And I think South Africans who are meeting you and hearing about you are going to love you just as much. Thank you for everything you're doing for this country.
Rob, I need to thank you. I know that you get insulted and people say all sorts of names about you. You know, I don't agree with everything that you say. And you also don't need to agree with everything that I say. But there's one thing that is common about you and I, is that you love South Africa. You're a patriot. And you are registering your voice. And what you say is about building South Africa. So I actually owe you gratitude. I should thank you for what you are doing. South Africa will succeed the day both you and I, as white and black, are humble to appreciate each other.
Love you, man. Thanks,
Rob.